Hey everybody, it's Book of Katherine. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about truth videos. I was doing a group chat on a committee on the something about defense of China. The committee on, dang it, hold on present danger China. I always want to say clear and present danger China, but it's not. It's the committee on the present danger of China. So and I love that committee. I love that the work that they do. This time they had a group chat, and I rarely do group chats or anything, and I did a group chat this time, and I should have known because it's China. It was just all shills. But you can't always tell shills right away. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. And this time the main shill tried to get me onto a bunch of truth videos. And I can understand it's a China video. And there were other shills that were like saying that they're veterans, but they're going to vote for Bernie. And they just say a lot of opposing things. They say anything. And the whole point of a shill during a live chat like that is to keep your focus off of what's being said on the video, especially on something like a China video where they're actually saying what's happening in China. I mean, they were talking about abortion rates, forced abortion rates, like not people who chose to have an abortion, but forced abortion rates, which is very, very different. Like that's not a person's right. That's a person's taking somebody's right, if that makes sense. So forced abortion rates, they were talking about the forced violation against human rights and human rights abuses, some really horrific things about limitations on the ability to eat, just horrific restrictions on participating in a religion. It's not just Christians, it's Uyghurs. We've talked about this before. It's Uyghurs. Judaism is banned there. Though I don't think they don't have a problem with uprising of Judaism, but Buddhism, Tibet, it's all they have there is just a huge, even though they have certain ones that are allowed by law, they still persecute them. And so there's a huge problem there. What they said was they're making war on religion there, that the Communist Party has pretty much declared war on all religions in China. And so they talked about numbers and statistics regarding that and their tactics and techniques. They talked about the virus. And that's something that they don't want us listening to. And so they send people onto the chat for you to talk about that. And I ended up talking about, Germany and the top 25 companies that are there. I was saying, yes, it's a problem. Like, yes, China's the problem, but the top 25 companies that are there in the United Nations that are propagating this and pushing this globally, like if we didn't have those German companies there, China would crumble. Like, we can say don't invest in China, but I'm like, don't invest in Germany. Like, Germany is the thing that holds China up. The Nazi party just moved over to China and just became bigger. It really is Germany that we need to be worried about and focusing on, and the Europe families that are doing that, and the conglomerate there. The reason they're stretching into Italy, and there still is the word axis of Japan and Italy and Germany and Spain, and that whole conglomerate is still working together. That axis of evil from World War II is still together, and they are now using China as their engine. And we have to be very, very aware of that and talk about that angle. And that's the angle that I was talking about in the group chat or whatever. And so then of course they started recommending people that I should look into. And so I was like, okay, thanks, I'll look into it. But then after they started recommending people to look into, then they were like, and make sure you donate to them. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And they were like, and it's multi-continent. There's one in India. And I'm like, they're in India. Like, that's the Commonwealth country. Okay, like maybe, all right. But you have one on every continent. Like, that's a great sales tactic to be like, we have a truther on every continent. And I started checking them and I was like, and there we go. Like, one was just straight Democrat, and the amount of stuff they put out and the rate they put out, I know that as an individual, it's impossible to put out that amount of material. It's literally physically impossible because I know editing, I know product placement, I know marketing. Like, PR is my thing. That's what I did in Silicon Valley, was PR. I actually know what it takes to go into one of those videos. I know the writing that it takes, I know the production that it takes, I know the video editing that it takes. That's like impossible for these people to do at the rate they do it with the news that it takes. And also, if you look, it has a very clear vision, it has a very clear production vision, it has a product. Every single channel has a very, very clear product and a very clear sales placement product. And one just sells Democrats, like Joe Biden, Democrats, this one thing. And then another one just sells Trump, but sells Trump in this like cataclysmic kind of way that everything's going wrong and everything's going wrong in DC in this way. And every single one focuses on America and America's going to hell. America's going to hell in a handbasket, which is what these people underneath the shills will always tell you. Absolutely none of them will let you look outside. None of them will let you look at the world, even though the world is a globalist and everything says we need to be a globalist community and globalism. Nothing, absolutely nothing, and none of these truther channels will ever be doing a video on the globe. The globalist movement, globalism, the world, the United Nations, you know, the SDGs, the global goals, the global government, you know, the United Nations government, you know, UNESCO, the global education government, the education government for the globe, you know, the health department for the entire globe that these royal families fund and this Pope funds that they push globally. And they just say, for the environment, it's best if you give us all your private land for the environment. We don't think any of you can handle your environmental laws. So just make sure the monarchs take control of all the monarchy, you know, like in South Africa. And so they're just doing this through environmentalism. They're just going around like with Tusk organization, all these charities, and even like they hired Robert Downey Jr. and he goes around and says, oh, look at cute puppy, cute pub. That's right. Give us all your private land. You don't want this puppy to little cub or this little lion to suffer, do you? Right? So you need to give over all your private land rights. All citizens need to hand over their private land rights. And that's just best for wildlife. Well, no one tells you who you're handing it over to. You're handing it over to the most powerful people in the world who've owned slaves and driven slavery and hate, you know, hate fair trade. You know, we don't want free trade. Free trade means you can trade people. We want fair trade, and they don't like that. The royals are like free trade, we make the most money. And we're like fair trade, fair trade. We want, you know, fair trade. Trading humans is not okay, which is why Mitch McConnell needs to be voted out, because he took out the fair trade clause of the China agreement with Dianne Feinstein and with Bill Clinton, so that, yes, you can do things like trade slaves in China and we will still buy their goods from them. He took out that clause of fair trade so that human rights violations can happen and we'll still take things from China, which is how we completely got harvested out, because we took that entire clause out. We used to have a thing banning that. We used to have a thing banning that if you did something like that, we wouldn't trade with you. And it just opened up a ton of slavery in the world again today. Ton of human rights violations, and Mitch McConnell did that. He needs to be voted out of Kentucky. Big time. A lot of conservatives actually did that bill back in 2001. I have it on my blog, Bill 2.C something .2201 or whatever. Oh, it's really, really like one of the largest human rights travesty, I would say, of the last, 30 years was that passing of that bill. And Mitch McConnell needs to pay for every conservative, every person, Democrat, has to pay for it as well. Everyone on that bill needs to pay for it. They need to be removed from office for undoing the civil war, essentially, and changing the values of this country. So when people tell you things like, oh, we need to trade with China because, money is money, we just need to do it. It doesn't matter if they're being starved to death and they become a skeleton. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing as saying it doesn't matter if they get burned in an oven because we make money. That's what Volkswagen did. That's what BMW did. That's what BASF did. That's what they all said back in Germany. That's what Wall Street said back in Nazi Germany. They said we make more money if we just burn them in the ovens. If we just run the humans out, and then burn them in the ovens, that's cheaper. Now in China, they just run a human out and then they sell off their organs. That makes more money. They've figured out that ovens is just not as profitable as selling off their organs. So they've just chosen a different manner that's more profitable. And it's the same companies. So these truther movements aren't talking about that. They don't talk about China. They don't talk about Europe. They don't talk about the Pope. They don't talk about South Africa. They don't talk about human rights travesties over in Russia. I mean, it's amazing to me that these truther movements are saying they're big truther movements, but all of them focus on just America, and they make it look like America's going to crapper. And they will even say this. They'll say Americans are stupid. I'm like, it is amazing to me that we are the only place with the Bill of Rights, but we're the stupid ones. And then they'll tell you, yeah, but you haven't done anything with it. I'm like, we've done more with it than any other country. We at least have it. And with that freedom, we are able to think more than any other country. Other countries don't get the freedom to think the way that we do. Don't tell me that the people in China get the freedom to explore and think as much as we do. They don't. They don't. So don't give me that. We're not stupid. We're not stupid. We try and we think, and our education system may be UNESCO based, and yet here we are, and we're still, Trump's vote was bigger. That's because people like me came along and figured out, like Bernie Sanders, I figured out, you know, in the spring of 2018, I figured out that Bernie Sanders, everyone who had his back, was a Democrat billionaire. I figured out all the billionaires, the top 10 billionaires in America, were all Democrat. I didn't know that. I was just like, what? Because I had been like so pro Bernie, and I was like, and I had to do, everything changed. I was like digging and all this stuff, and I was like, that's it. Like, what a liar. What a liar. What a liar. Boy, and I sure went the other way. Like, I started looking at other stuff and trying to find out what was true and what was not. And I didn't find these truther videos, and I found other truther videos, but I had to dig through those. That's right. And this lady said, ignore Q and go to these. You know, Q at least had some stuff that was truthful in the time that I was looking. Q at least had some stuff that put me onto stuff that was real. Q actually pointed to the United Nations and got me onto some stuff with the United Nations. I wasn't with Q very long, but Q at least taught me how to dig and got me onto some things that were at least real. Like, at least pointed you in the right direction, at least, for heaven's sakes. Not these things. These things are divide and conquer. Divide America and conquer. Just look at America. You know, if a headline is always about a Democrat, then they're advertising for the Democrats. You know, it should be, it's a globalist world. Trump is fighting on a globalist stage. We are fighting at a state, and the globalists are fighting us at a state and local level. So if you're not hearing any news about your local level, your state level, or the global level, if those are all being left out, you know, not much of a truther, not much of a patriot. Something to check. Love you guys so much. Donate down below, please. And yeah, this thing of like, oh, they have to pay $100 for stats. I don't believe those stats. I don't do that service. I don't pay for my YouTube channel. I don't have anything like that because I don't trust those stats the house. I'm not paying YouTube anything for my channel. No, because I don't trust any of those stats. I don't believe them for a second. Are you insane? Are you insane? Are you insane? We sit there and watch a number go up and then boop, the number changes and it goes down. I'm not going to believe what YouTube tells me my channel is and who my people are. You know, I believe some things that stay consistent over time or whatever, but certain videos, you know, like I just noticed, I'm like, oh, my video went up and then it dropped and the video went up and I can't trust it over time. I'm not going to pay them to like twist it. You know, I'm like, you've got an agenda. Like, I'm going to give you money, like reward you for twisting an agenda. I'm like, you know, be myself. And if you like it, that's it. I'll work my butt off for you and we'll trade. We'll do a fair trade. You can help me get my body back and get my right leg back, help me through the procedures, and I'll tell you about the procedures, and I'll tell you about the research I find, and we will do a fair trade. How's that? Fair trade deal. $1 a month, and we're good. Yeah? Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.